Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Hubert Golle. I'm a product manager at Robotina for Energy Management Solutions. And I would like to speak with you about how to involve a residential prosumer in energy revolution, evolution, something. So how to take an active part. As a start, I will try to put us in the shoes of a German house owner, a residential house owner who already has our system. So why did he get such a system? What benefits does he come from the system? I will take a risk and try to connect live to internet. So here it is. This is a live system now somewhere in northern Germany. This is our typical customer actually in Germany. The house owner has a photovoltaic plant on the rooftop. You can see it produces 2.4 kilowatt at the moment. The house owner also has a battery storage system, which has 9.1 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt hours of battery capacity. It is, of course, connected to electrical grid, and the house is a consumer. So we focus here on the house, not on individual equipment, but a house as a building. Usually our customers are very much interested into the figure up here, how much am I green? This means how much of my own consumption am I able to take from my renewable solar roof or from battery? Of course, the next question is, what do I achieve within the day? You can see today there's a nice sunny day in northern Germany. This is shown by the envelope orange line here, which is showing the production from the PV rooftop plant. The other line, the blue line, is showing the consumption at the connection point of the building to the grid. So you can see that there's plenty of, now it's not in the morning when the sun was starting to produce electrical energy. The consumption, which is the blue line, was taken from the solar plant directly. Before, in the nighttime, the production was fueled from the battery, and then after the battery was emptied, the house took the electricity from the grid. This is the red surface right here. Then, when the sun comes out, we get more and more electrical energy from solar rooftop, and we are able to cover all needs here at 9:30. Everything is fueled by the PV. Then, all of a sudden, we have excess of electrical power from the roof, and that's why the battery is here. The house owner wants to increase or maximize his own consumption. That's why the surplus of electrical energy is stored into the battery. And after the battery cannot take the energy, the excess is fueled into the grid. So you see the profile of consumption. Now it seems we'll have an early afternoon peak. And PV is not enough, so something is again taken from the electrical grid. Let's take a look at the yesterday performance. You can again see very nice shiny day. All what was needed was taken from the renewable, and the day before shows that also from grid it was really just a small amount of energy taken from the grid. Below you can see performance of the battery. At 11 o'clock it was 100% full, and then in the afternoon the energy was discharged to feed the consumption in the house. So the house owner knows exactly each day what is the profile of PV, how much do I produce, how much do I consume, do I match demand, response, am I self-sufficient, so to say. Of course, self-sufficiency here is not the big thing. It's, of course, the how the owner perceives the equipment, but of course he is connected to the grid, and always will also be, because in the we'll take a look at one day, let's say in January. Of course, then the situation is completely different. So you can see the green surface showing that only a little PV, or no, there's no PV here. So, no, sorry, this green surface is taken from the PV, but all the rest is taken from the grid. This is very normal in winter time in mid-Europe, and only a bit was put into the battery. Then the house owner would like to know what do I achieve throughout the month? What are my daily achievements within the month, each day? What do I get out of my equipment? Because she invested, you might say, 10 to 15,000 euro in the equipment. So how do I perform? And this index over here is showing the level of being self-sufficient. Of course, it differs from day to day. The average within the complete month is 68%. So the house owner can be quite happy with this result. Monthly consumption and monthly production also are almost aligned, which is also good. This is also good for Slovene scenario right now, which is net metering. So the user will not pay that much for the grid electricity, and also will not feed in back into the grid too much. And the user can also see what is the monthly consumption, but not only as a sum, but also the daily profile. When is my peak consumption? Why? So he or she can think about his own consumption in the house. How can I reduce the consumption? Also, the user can see whether the battery capacity is okay, whether there could be more rooftop solar, things like that. And the most important thing, I would say, is also to be aware of the yearly production and consumption. So what do I achieve? Let's take a look at year 2017, when we have a complete year. What do I achieve throughout the year? Again, consumption and production is pretty much matched. And of course, there will be not systems which are disconnected from the grid. We want to, by this system, we want to maximize, or to enable the house owner to maximize self-consumption by usage of his own rooftop PV, battery storage, and then the owner can start to think about how can I increase my self-consumption? How can I get rid of this yellow surface which is showing that this energy was feed into the grid, and vice versa? How could I improve own generation in winter months? So by this, the user, the homeowner, can be quite satisfied. He or she is contributing to green society, contributing to renewable energy sources. So the system shows the performance. What would you be interested in if you would be a house owner of a system like this? Do you have any idea what would arouse your attention?
For example, what is the return on investment of those 50,000 euros?
Yes, this is a good question. And this is a particularly good question for Germany. Thank you for this question, because the ROI actually comes from the conditions, the regulation that are put in the German market. And this says that the grid electricity bought for house consumption is charged by 29 euro cents per kilowatt hour. On the other hand, the yellow, when you feed into the grid, you get only 12 or something euro cents for kilowatt hour. So this gives you the ratio of return about 8 to 10 years nowadays in Germany. And of course the feed-in tariff goes down to zero, and they say also that the price of energy will go up. So basically the decision to invest in such a system is based on this. Let me help the green society, let me feel secure about my future and not exposed to risks of increased prices in future. Because the system is in operation for 20 years, so the remaining from, let's say, 8 to 20 is something that you really earn. To give just a short note on situation now in Slovenia, of course this scenario does not work. When you have net metering, as it is now implemented in Slovenia, you only care about yearly achievement. So is this matched? In principle, the difference is not too big, either in one or in the other direction, then I'm satisfied. So nobody really cares what happens within the day. All this burden, you might say burden, when you get really a lot of PV, is then put on the grid operator, and this is what we speak about in the next section. I will skip the slides which I prepared for safety, where there would be no internet. So this is like a wrap-up. Yesterday there was Earth Day, 22nd of April. So how can I help to save the blue planet? As we said, by promoting or investing in renewable power, by minimizing usage of fossil fuels, self-consumption of the green energy. Of course, green efficiency is also here. So with our system, we actually promote green thinking attitude at the house owners. But then the other part. So, as I said, there are different concepts to promote investments in renewable energy sources, and you might know that there were huge supportive schemes in Germany called Feedin tariff 10, 15 years back, when users could earn up to 50 euro cents per kilowatt hours. Of course, at the price of equipment, this was not as today. But the strategy was to lower the feed-in tariff yearly, and by this, the challenges which arise somehow motivate people to cooperate in bringing the stability of electrical grid, which is now in transformation. So in the second part, I will speak about what are the challenges and what are the opportunities of using HEMS, Home Energy Management System, to participate in a community. So this quite complicated graph is showing how the electrical grid operates. Traditional electrical grid is top-down. So from high voltage to low voltage, the generators are fueling the energy from producers to the users. Heavy industry, high voltage, medium voltage, and low voltage for consumers, commercial and households. So this was strict top-down. It was relatively easy to control the grid and the consumption, so this was manageable. Then, when the percentage of renewable energies is starting to be really considerable, you know that in Germany now there are more than 70 gigawatt of photovoltaic energy and 70 gigawatt of wind. This then brings instability in the electrical grid because all those renewables are volatile. You cannot really predict them, or you cannot control them. So, and the other part is that the generation is coming also from the on the low voltage from the consumer side. So the landscape of electrical grid is pretty much changed. So, and there are real challenges here. How to enable massive integration of renewables, how to balance energy generation and consumption in time, how to assure stability, and the real change will come with e-mobility. This will be a real game changer. So the question is how to possibly avoid huge investments into transforming the electrical grid. And just a few figures from Germany again. They said, this is an energy vendor from Germany, that by 2050, Germany will be 80% on renewables. Nuclear power plants will be closed by 2023. And in 2020, there should be 1 million electrical cars. So this will really make dramatic change, and huge investments will be required unless something is done on active cooperation of all stakeholders in the electrical grid. So this brings us to the main idea how, with HEMS systems provided by Robotina and HiQ Universe, which integrates HEMSys in one platform, prosumers can contribute to electrical grid stability. These are the houses all over the place. Each house has its own, as we saw, consumption profile. It might have the rooftop generator, electrical car, whatever. So each house has its own energy profile. This means that when you promote the feed-in tariff, everybody will just feed in electricity into the grid, and on the grid it will cause the congestion, or there will be excess of electricity when there is peak production. And another way, when there's peak consumption, again, you have no contribution from them. So our idea is that we aggregate the prosumers, the houses, by their own energy management systems, aggregate them on the level of HiQ Universe, create flexibility of usage of electrical energy in time, and offer this flexibility to grid operators to more easily or dynamically manage the electrical grid by participation of HEMS prosumers. I will show a few examples from the projects that we already are in, how this idea is put into practice. So the first example is coming from Slovenia. We now have one demonstration project called NATO project, because it's supported by NATO governmental agency from Japan. The main project partner is Hitachi, and there are many Slovene technology and solution providers, and also all major Slovene stakeholders are in the consortium of the companies. The main idea of this project is to lower the critical peak. So let's face the regional grid situation where we know that there are certain grid congestions in certain days. In this region, it's in Ptuj, there's a transformer station which has real congestions in winter time. So the idea is, let's forecast where the congestion will be in the grid. Let's activate the flexibility of the prosumers, and let's charge them if they don't obey the So it's a give and take. The critical peak will be extremely expensive, 10 times the cost of usual tariff. So let us try to activate the prosumers, but the grid operator is limited to 50 hours per year. Because also there was analysis done that 50 hours per year could very well adopt the grid conditions. So there are three ways to do this. One is simply by sending SMS messages to the household owners. They are not punished with 10 times bill, but the others two are. So direct disconnection of some loads by central system. And the third situation is introduction of HEMS, which can be much more flexible than these two, which you cannot really control, or you can have very good results at the very beginning with sending SMS, but then people might not follow anymore. So the HEMS system is integrated in the house energy management, and also it is idea to integrate it later on with smart home automation. So the HEMS prosumers get activation automatically. Server-to-server communication between ARIA server and HEMS server, HiQ Universe, sends the forecast for the next day. And here in the upper left corner, you can see one such scenario. It was it in April? So this month. And this is the activation. So between 7 and 8 p.m., this is the critical peak. So our HEMS system receives this from the server and then activates at the prosumer that the significant loads are switched off. And by this, you can see this very clearly. The peak consumption is really minimized. Of course, we cannot switch everything, but what is controllable, we take into the system, and we assure, really guarantee that this will be reached. And there are also results already available from the grid operator, Elektromaribor. They say that when they did the activation, the result as a whole was reduction of critical peak by, in average, 30%. So the achievement is quite good, and it shows that the potential, although you might say one house, of course, does not contribute a lot, but when you put many houses in the region, you can really achieve, especially local targets. You can be really dynamic in this reduction of peak, which is, again, very good for the DSO because they might avoid some huge investments in the grid at the region, in cables or in transformer station, whatever the situation is at the site. Another example of the smart grid implementation is a project also supported by NATO, governmental agency from Japan, again with Hitachi Chemical here, one of the major vendors of lithium-ion batteries globally. And they selected Robotina to deliver the energy management system for the project. The project also on the German side, so the project is in Speyer in Germany. The idea is to prepare energy management model for future. So from feed-in tariff system, Eigenverbrauch, as Germans say, to participating optimization of usage according to local circumstances. And in this particular project, these local circumstances are reflected in price of energy. So price of energy is set hourly. Each hour, 1 to 4 days ahead, gets particular energy price, electrical and also heat. So our system is prepared in the way that it is able to optimize the in-house production and consumption accordingly so that the user has minimum costs. And the DSO gets good stability of the grid. So Domen will later on tell much more about this, but just to say about what are the main features. So it is a 16 apartment house in Speyer, Germany, which was completely reconstructed from gas to electrical generation. The heating system heat pump is installed, rooftop PV is installed, and a lot of batteries in the basement that help us to manage the energy flow in daily cycle. You can see below, but Domen will speak more of this in detail. So what we do here in our EMS, we make prediction for in-house consumption for 1 to 4 days ahead based on machine learning algorithms, which started May 2016. We forecast the PV generation on the basis of weather prognosis, regional, of course, for the next day and 4 days ahead. Then we get from the system, we get hourly prices of electrical energy. And by this, dynamic optimization algorithms are run each hour, and they give us the state of equipment for the next hour. We get SOC for the batteries, we have temperature for the heat pump and for heat reservoirs, and by this, we really adopt to what DSO needs. So this is really, I might say, state-of-the-art implementation of smart grid project. And the third one is H2020, European funded research and development, but mostly it's implementation, demonstration project, which puts together the stakeholders who are all relevant to take this smart grid into consideration. So there are DSOs from Germany, Switzerland, and Cyprus. There are institutions, faculties, universities that help them in local implementation of such a system. There are solution providers from Slovenia, 3 companies, INEA, Etrel, and Robotina. And there is IBM as a managing partner. So it's quite a challenging project. Our ambition is to set up a vertically integrated solution which will enable dynamic trading of electrical flexibility. So when you have a potential to adopt to something by changing your behavior of electrical consumption, you offer this to the grid operator or to the system, to the automatic trading platform. We call this like flex offer. You send flex offer to the platform. Platform knows what is the situation in the market, because this is reflected by energy price, which is in the market changed constantly. And then they give us feedback information whether we should increase consumption, minimize it, or what would be the schedule for the next hour, 4 hours, whatever the period. By this, by active prosumers' participation of home, small business, factories, and e-mobility, the ambition of this project is to enable grid stability. And this will be implemented and demonstrated in all 3 locations: in Wunsiedel, Germany, Sion, Switzerland, and Nicosia in Cyprus. So we also want to see what are the regional special challenges, what will be the impacts. So we are looking very forward, because this implementation phase starts June this year. Robotina delivers 70 HEMS systems and 7 systems for e-mobility. So this is something like a wrap-up for this mind shift that we are trying to enable, or to enable the change into decentralized energy market, which is implemented massively with renewable energy sources. So traditional, on the left hand, there are concepts like feed-in tariff, limitation of PV generation by just maximizing the PV output, net metering, fixed daily tariffs. So the core thing is that all these concepts put all the burden onto grid operators. All the costs, all the burden, everything is on the operator. The investors just take money from governmental support, incentives, and they are happy. So they only care about maximum production and return on investment. So this has to be changed when the renewables will be implemented massively, because we need really dynamic grid stability. There are concepts which I just showed a few: automatic trading with flexibilities, dynamic tariff system, dynamic peak reduction, and all of those really want to activate the flexibility at the consumers and to make them prosumers. So the time horizon changes from year or month to day, hour, or 15 minutes, or even less, to be really dynamically responsive, and this should really bring win-win situation for all stakeholders which are involved. Do you have any comments maybe here? Somebody from the audience, do you agree with this basic idea, basic concept? Yes?
I understand right. If I understand right, this is the sharing of electricity between these stakeholders.
Sorry, can you please repeat? I did not really get the point.
If I understand right, this is the sharing of electricity, of excess of electricity between these stakeholders.
So the idea is that each of the stakeholders, so this means the transmission grid, the DSOs, the traders with electrical energy, and the consumers, they all look at the real viable challenging items which can make the difference. So not that each one of them is taking benefits and the other is financing this, but that real relevant issues are addressed in the right way. And this, with all these renewables installed in the grid, means dynamic optimization of usage, matching the production. This is the main idea. And as said, the real game changer will be massive implementation of electrical cars, because I guess many of you are aware that it is not possible to fuel a lot of electrical cars somewhere with the existing grid. So huge investments will have to be made to enable this, but this is then the right approach.
Okay.
So briefly, what are the benefits that we offer to HEMS customers, home owners? So we really put home into the focus. The house owner can understand when, how the electricity is consumed, can decide whether there makes any sense to shift energy consumption in time based on some tariff models. When the electricity is cheap, do I get some real ROI or not? This is based on the regulation, on the DSOs and on the government. Connected to the HiQ universe, the IoT platform, which Dusan will tell more after me, the user can get additional benefits by connecting to the smart grid and really save money, and by this contribute to green society. I read yesterday that 93% of German citizens are really very much in favor of this concept, just as a mindset that they share. So if you take the guy from the first slides into this, you can understand that he really benefits a lot by being an active prosumer. And for the business customers, our standard EMS features can be customized for particular business cases at the business customers. So our energy management algorithms, which enable to get flexibility out of consumer, can be adopted to particular. In Cyprus you have air conditioners, in Germany you have heat pumps, so there are some differences. We can offer our HiQ Universe IT platform as a service, or it can be installed on site. We are able to implement machine learning algorithms and dynamic optimization. We can integrate smart home automation. This makes the most of the synergy in a house, smart home and energy management, battery storage, solar production, etc. And we offer aggregation on the HiQ platform. And last but not least, our system is able to be remotely upgraded. So as the new business models are being developed, HEMS user can get new software, new feature as a service remotely. So we can remotely upgrade the way the HEMS operates. And by this also, of course, enable operation and maintenance support for our business partners. Thank you for your attention. I can take one or two questions.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. I wonder if you have any calculations regarding, let's say, cost for CO2 emission reduction for 20% by 2030 or something like that. What would be the result if we, let's say, include 50% of Slovenian homes into such a system? And of course, what would be the cost of investment?
Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, we do not have such a calculation in the company. We are bottom-up provider. So we want to enable the implementation of such system, but the relation to policies, national policies, and the calculations, as you said, should come somewhere in between. So we'd like to share with you what we, how we see. We prepared a bunch of products. Just now we have new family of HEMS products which enable easy retrofit installations, because we know that we have to enable retrofit, meaning in existing house with no wiring, with wireless implementation to make it easy and cheap. So we want to enable massive implementation of such systems, because one house does not bring a lot of tons CO2, but then plenty, they really contribute.
I would also like to thank you for your presentation. My question is, do you see that you said that the granularity of the data will be 15 minutes? Do you think this is granular enough to make decisions when all this will go massively?
Thank you. Relevant question. And you put it right. 15 minutes interval is good for observation, maybe for billing. But 15-minute interval basically is the average of the... So this is the difference in look from energy, 15-minute consumed energy, and power, which is within the interval up and down. So we always look at the average for the 15-minute interval. But of course the control algorithms are, you might say, real time. So the algorithms run in the controller, which is industrial controller. So it's on the range of 20 milliseconds. And the rules which are implemented also are obeyed like in the control automation. So we follow the scenario, you can say, in real time, but then for aggregation, billing, things like that, we put things in the database, storage, history, analysis. We make this in 15-minute interval.
Thank you.
And just one more, there's also local level, which is real time, and there's cloud level, which does not have to be real time. From cloud, we have criteria, we get decisions. As mentioned in the Speyer project, we get SOC for the battery for the next hour or so, but then we follow the scenario within that particular interval. And of course, changes are always there. Consumption goes up and down, generation goes up and down, and then we comply with this change situation in real time, to be able to deliver at the end of the interval what was forecasted.
Many thanks also from my side for your presentation. I would like to know if you have already implemented some power quality monitoring systems within your solutions, because from other side we know that many energy devices, smart devices, can produce different disturbances, like harmonic disturbances, transient disturbances within the network grid, So I'm, let's say, interested in if you already, let's say, have some such a device integrated within or monitoring, or how this is solved from this perspective.
So basically, we do not get deep into this by implementing components like hybrid inverter, three-phase hybrid inverter. One thing is that we can make even distribution of power on the free phase, which is also a challenge. Then harmonics also, but this is more or less on the level of component. So we have one very interesting new project just starting this month in Cyprus, where Fronius, as major inverter vendor, will be included also for these things, because yes, the quality of grid also might be suffering when you have this decentralized energy generators all over the place. So it's extremely important.
Many thanks.
Thank you. So to be on time, maybe one last.
Thank you. Just a short question. Do you have any estimation or concrete value? What is the cost for residential house for implement your solution?
So the cost of actual implementation can vary really a lot. So as I mentioned, we prepared a wireless solution based on our industrial controller. At the moment, this is our valid product configuration. We just not invented, we just developed a home linker, which is a Raspberry Pi computer, which can also work as a home controller, and is then the solution there is significantly cheaper. But our ambition, and this is also why we started ICO, is that we really go into redesign of our products for the mass implementation. So we are trying to get funds to go into the next cycle of product reinvention, and to really bring the costs on the level of 150, 200 euro per installation. Of course, then the auxiliary devices which enable to connect the loads also impact the price of the system in-house. So at the end, we believe that the devices or the loads, the systems will be connected in the cloud at server-to-server communication, so there will be no real physical installation for, let's say, connecting the heat pump. We can get the data from the web, right, from the cloud. So we are sure that for massive implementation, cost has to be low, and we are heading into this with our initiative. So thank you. Dusan will be my successor. He will tell more about the IoT platform.